Let's go. All right, this should be live now. All going well. We'll soon see. On this fine Friday evening. There we go. That looks good. Awesome. Okay, getting the hang of this now. All right, welcome everybody to the fourth episode of the Climate Con podcast. Welcome, welcome. I hope you're all having a good Friday so far and you've had a good week. It seems like, yeah, we figured out the live stream. That's awesome. So I've got a guest joining me in a short while. We're going to be talking about what's going on in their local area because they are being affected by the LTNs, as many people are around the country, right? But as you know, as so many people are actually being affected, there are so many people that are mounting a resistance, which is really awesome. It's really awesome to see that. We're seeing the activist spirit of the UK once again be activated in fighting back against yet another load of tyranny and bullshit and control measures and trying to remove freedoms and just trying to take the fun out of life. That's what we are up against. But it's really, really great to see that. And I'm seeing it all over the country. And it's amazing. If you haven't seen it yet, if you go to the Reclaim Our Roads campaign page on thegreatclimatecon.com, you will see that we have on that page a huge list of, you know, the history about what's been going on here, some really awesome things that have happened, but then also, yeah, like you can get connected with all of the groups all around the country. So that's pretty cool, right? All right, I should sound a little bit better there. Should just adjust my audio slightly. Everyone should still be able to hear me. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So yeah, I've got a guest joining me from Brighton. We connected. And we're going to speak about, well, she actually has a political party, which is quite cool. I think that's really awesome. And I do still believe that the greatest change that we can make, well, a great part of the change that we can make is still through the political system. If we get good people in positions of power who are on our side, who, you know, are transparent, who actually genuinely are for the people, I think that can be very beneficial. And I haven't completely given up on the political system yet. So when there are alternatives coming on the scene, I think that's pretty cool, right? So just getting the audio right here. Okay, yeah, that sounds pretty good. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, so we'll give it a few minutes, my guests to join me. And yeah, so welcome everybody if you're just joining. And it looks like we got it all working this time. Unfortunately, the previous episode, there was a bit of a hitch and, you know, it didn't quite go as planned. The second episode did get published for the members, but the first episode was unfortunately lost, which is quite a shame when you think about it. But there we are. This episode is going well, and I do believe we have cracked the code of live streaming, so that's fantastic. And I actually think that, you know, I was curious as well, like quite a bit's happened since the last time we spoke on the show, but with also you had Boris coming out speaking out against the ULEZ, and that for me was a bit strange. I'll just touch on that for a moment because he brought up a few key points and it was like, okay, yeah, but so the zone is already, you know, sort of reinforce the idea that you have to have the zone in the middle, but maybe this was like damage control because they're losing the battle in the mind of the consciousness of the people in terms of trying to get the ULEZ rolled out in the Greater London. So maybe they're like, okay, we'll just say that, yeah, we'll act like this part of the government doesn't like what this part's doing, so that might be the reason that it stopped. It's not because, again, the activists have come together and then they're like, no. Yeah, there's a different reason behind it. Yeah, so that was quite interesting, and also pushing things for like electric cars and shit like that. However, what I'm seeing, as I was mentioning before, all the groups that are established themselves all over the country, there's fierce resistance to this. And you got, was it Birmingham, tens of thousands of people that are just, they're not paying it. They're just like, okay, each month there's 30,000 people in Birmingham that are not paying the CAS fines. That's every month. There's all these fines and they're not paying them. That's quite inspirational, wouldn't you think? I mean, what the fuck are they supposed to do? They can't. And there's so many people that organize, fight back, and you know, don't comply. There's literally nothing they can do. Although, to be fair, if you were to create an idea to generate money, and they said this themselves, that there's so much money being generated, we can't actually count it all. I think that's quite a success. So it's sort of a success in one way and also failing in another. And I guess it's, again, what do people want to do? Do they want to comply, or do they want to, you know, be sovereign free beings? All right, so in a couple minutes, my first guest will be joining me, and yeah, we'll get going. But welcome everybody, and thank you to everybody who's been supporting so far. It is very much appreciated. We wouldn't be able to continue going at the rate that we were going if it weren't for the support from the community. It just blow up just so fast. I don't know if anybody listening to this has actually been around since the start of the website. It's only 2 months ago, but within 4 days of launching, it went viral, and I had to emergency mode call the website provider, the host, and upgrade the server because there was that much traffic. It nearly took down the entire website. It was quite something to witness and be a part of, to be honest. It was very special. And yeah, so with your guys' generous support, we were able to upgrade the servers and also continue the mailing list and stuff like that. All right, so let's get into our guest who's going to join me for a little bit, then we'll head into part 2. All right, so this is the part now where I've done everything okay this time. Everything's run really nicely, so hopefully. Hi there, can you hear me, Laura? You are currently muted though. You need to unmute yourself. You know how to do that. You've connected to the audio. You've also just, there we go. Hi, how you doing?
I am good, yes.
You just got your video there.
Yeah, I'm just, yeah, hi.
Great. Hi, yeah, so welcome to the show. Nice for you to join me. And your email was quite interesting, what you're saying you were doing with your own sort of political party in Brighton, right? So that's quite cool, and we can definitely get into that. Oh, we've got
they just arrived. Sorry, can I?
Higher?
Bit higher, right? Sorry.
Oh, not quite, nearly. I see it a bit there. Something.
Sorry, for some reason. Oh, yeah, the cameras are over there. Right. Okay. Right, sorry, not used to
there. It is.
Great.
Yes. Okay, cool. Yeah, so Friends of Brighton and Hove Party, it says on this badge here.
Yes.
And we're definitely going to get into all of that. So Laura, just tell us a little bit about yourself and how come you've got involved in what you're doing right now.
Well, it all started in sort of April 2020 when our local council decided in the first lockdown to close Madeira Drive, which is a really famous drive in Quadrophenia. You have lots of events there, the speed trials, the motorbike speed trials, the old Crocs, the London to Brighton car run, everything ends on Madeira Drive. It brings in millions of pounds for our city, and the council decided to close it forever.
Okay.
For extra space for COVID exercise. They decided to close it forever. And my partner found out about it, and we started a petition together. Then we started a Facebook group. Then we got nearly 11,000 signatures to reopen it. Then we found the council tried to ignore our petition and favour a petition keeping it closed that was like a quarter of the size. So eventually we got Madeira Drive reopened on a technicality because they discriminated against the disabled who couldn't then get to their changing places facility. And I thought that was it. But then I got involved in removing the Old Shoreham Road cycle lane, which was a real dreadful cycle lane for blocking up the west side of town. And then the council started going absolutely nuts, putting cycle lanes next to existing cycle lanes, taking out disabled spaces, taking out visitor parking, and we're a tourist resort. Basically, it became obvious to me that everything they did was not because they like cyclists, but it's because they hate drivers. And because one or two people had helped us with the Madeira Drive campaign, we just went from one campaign to another to try and shine a big light on what was going on and try and get things reversed. And eventually the Old Shoreham cycle lane was reversed. And we've kind of gone on from strength to strength, pointing out, because we found out they wanted a car-free city 2023 for Brighton and Hove. And basically, I think we've thrown enough spanners in the works that they're really way back on their plan, but now they're trying to bring in 18-minute neighbourhoods, low traffic neighbourhoods, a mini Holland, a livable neighbourhood, bus gates, ULEZ, pocket gardens, school streets, you name it, they've got a name for it and they're trying to bring it in, so the fun never ends.
Yeah, and I think you're off to a really good start though, because that's already 2 victories, right? That you've campaigned for.
Well, it wasn't just me. I mean, I did assemble a team of passionate locals behind the scenes, and basically we have 4 Facebook groups with about 7,000 members. So everything that we found out that was happening, we had protests outside the town hall, and then we found it was quite hard to get people out, particularly after the lockdowns and the nervousness about going out. And then we ended up finding out it was actually more effective to ask public questions in council meetings. And it had such a drastic effect. They actually discovered a councillor with COVID in the middle of a council meeting and abandoned it. And then the next one they didn't have at all, because they were, we found we had this dramatic effect on them when we started asking questions in council, which if on film, so they're on record, and then they get reported in the local media as well. So I would advise everybody having issues with their council, find out how to ask public questions in your council meetings, because they hate it.
And so what sort of questions are you asking in these meetings?
Well, it depends on the issue, but it will be a slightly different system in each council. But in our council, it's the case that if you have slightly tame question, you'll get it accepted, and you have to submit it 5 days before the meeting, no more than 100 words long. So, for example, recently, a friend of mine, her question was, does the council ever reverse or review decisions if they need revisiting? And the answer was, oh, yes, of course we do. And then she was asked, oh, okay, well, do you have a supplementary question? And so her supplementary question was, okay, the whole council decided to implement 18-minute neighbourhoods during lockdown in 2020 when no one was allowed in the town hall. And even the councillors, only one member of each party voted on behalf of the whole party. So basically 53 out of 54 councillors had effectively voted for 18-minute neighbourhoods during a lockdown time. So the question was, would they reverse it? And the answer came no. But now that is public record, and at least we know where we stand with that, and we know what we're dealing with. So that in itself is a victory, because it forced it out in the open, and it wasn't just a conspiracy theory anymore.
And so recently there's obviously been backtracking on certain plans in Brighton, but you were saying it's not over yet though.
Well, there's a lovely part of town called Hanover, and it's on a steep hill, and it's a real strong community area, and I'm actually going to be running as a potential council candidate there. And they decided they were going to have an experimental LTN there. Now, this is utterly ridiculous, because it's a neighbourhood that already is an LTN, because it had traffic calming measures back in the late 70s, early 80s. So a lot of streets are already one way, or they've got chicanes, or they've got planters. So literally it's not a busy area. And since they had a CPZ zone put in, so only residents can park there and people can't use it as a free car park to visit Brighton, they've got even less traffic problems. So literally this is a neighbourhood with pretty well not many traffic problems, and the council decided, oh, what a great test bed to put a low traffic neighbourhood in. And the residents have well, at first they didn't really know what was going on, and some of them still don't, but others were like poring over every detail of every plan. Well, what's this? What's this? What's this? Do we need it? And really kind of going to town on all the detail. And now there's a Facebook group where probably 80% of them are against it and 20% are in favour, but quite a few of those are in favour happen to be councillors or Green councillors or Labour councillors, trying to steer the conversation. So basically, this has been a very flip-flop issue where 1 minute it's on, next minute it's off, and obviously the elections are coming up. And we had a scandal with the council closing public toilets, saying they couldn't afford them, and then Labour sort of showboating and saying, oh, we'll get the money back for public toilets. And now yesterday in a meeting, it seems all parties have compromised on not entirely scrapping the LTN, but they're saying it's just for the boundary roads around Hanover and Elm Grove. But they're still calling it, but now they're calling it livable neighbourhood. So the kind of rebranding going on.
Yeah, see, I think what happens is they do experiments with certain terminology, and then with the data harvesting, they start to realise, okay, yeah, that phrase is too, this or that, and so they have to change it. Livable neighbourhoods is another term, right? Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the thing about the livable neighbourhood is it's such an insult to Hanover and Elm Grove, because it's a gorgeous neighbourhood and loads of people want to live there in their brightly painted houses. So, if it's not a livable neighbourhood, it's not exactly the middle of Beirut either. It's a lovely place to live, and people really take pride in their neighbourhood, and it's quite a strong community there. So it was literally the worst area they could have picked on to use as a guinea pig area, because people, even no matter what their awareness of these environmental schemes, whether they have lots of environmental awareness of these schemes or none at all, they're very protective of their neighbourhood, and they will pore over every plan and every detail and actually say, oh, I don't remember asking for this, or how's this going to affect me getting to my kids' school, or how's this going to affect me getting to work? And they really, really go into the details of these things, even if they're not looking at it with a wide angle lens, as it were.
It's good that they have that passion, though, that they want to fight for their community. And
well, it's such a nice community. I mean, they're really protective of it, and that's commendable. But like I said, that kind of makes it the worst test bed that the council could have chosen for this scheme, Yeah,
because of the resistance, right?
Well, because they know how passionate they are about the details of what's going on in their neighbourhood. I mean, the council should know this already, because they're like this with all issues. I mean, it took them 10 years to decide on a CPZ, a controlled parking zone, but at least that came from them, and they decided what sort of scheme they wanted in the end. Mm-hmm. So they, pernickety is the wrong word, but they're very particular about what they want and what they don't want in their community.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm listening how you're saying about how all of the parties have come to a compromise, and it's just this little measure, right? It can't be nothing. No. Something.
Well, isn't that interesting? Because in a genuine consultation, doing nothing should always be an option, shouldn't it? It's a genuine consultation. Doing nothing should always be an option. And then you've got the cost benefit analysis that should happen, and also setting the right parameters in the consultation. How many people have to reply to the consultation? How many yeses do you have to get before it goes ahead? What percentage does that represent? So basically, we have a lot of sham consultations that are pre-engineered for the predetermined answer. And they're literally a tick box exercise, and our council have had a lot of criticism about their sham consultations, because they're not remotely impartial, and they're literally designed to steer people in a certain direction, and some of them have only been tick box, so you can't even put your opinions into narrative boxes.
Cool. Okay, so we do this show in two parts, and I'd love to continue picking your brain, Laura, on all of what we're speaking about, and get into perhaps some of the reasons why you think this is happening, but also your political party and stuff like that. Sure. So for everyone who is a member, you would have received a link to view part 2 of this, and everyone else who's supporting via membership will receive the link and the recording. So thank you, everybody. That closes part 1 of the 4th episode of the ClimateCon podcast. Thank you for joining me.